Right, for this video, I'm going to go through a bunch of Excel tricks, and I just downloaded this Excel file, birth weight reduced underscore R. I want to first of all enable editing so I can do stuff with it. And let's talk about using and applying filters. This has filters set up. If you right here under home on the right hand, you set up, unless you set up your Excel differently, that turns them on or off. If you select a bunch of data somewhere in here, I'll apply the filter again. When you see these little drop down things, that means there's a filter, and it's really handy. You can select specific values and it will filter only, like for this one, as all the 0 values or all the 1 values. Select all. You can put some number of criterias in here. Equals, does not equal, greater than, all these things that we have on here. So that can be useful in looking at data. Let me talk about anchoring cells and copying. So I'll open up a new worksheet. I'll put some values in here. Excel. So these are the columns are the letters and the rows are the numbers. And if I select cell E5, you'll notice right up here, it says E5. Okay, in there, I'm going to do equals, and then I'll click on the cell at A1. And so that returns the value from A1. Enter the formula will take. You have to put an equal sign anytime you use an Excel formula. And I'm going to copy this formula and paste it in another cell. You can either right click and hit copy, or you can do Control C, which will copy. And once that is copied, you'll see little green lines going around. That means it's selected for copying. If I paste, so if I could right click and I could paste, or I could Control V as paste, that paste a new formula, B1. It wasn't the value of 1 we had before. It's a formula B1. And it's not the same one as A1 before. So we copied A1, but that is one cell to the right, and that we pasted it. So it copies the contents of one cell to the right of what was originally copied. The same thing here. I could paste in all these cells, and it's the relative reference from the initial cell that I copied from. Let's do something called anchoring. I'm going to anchor part of this row. I'll anchor the columns. That's the letter. So I'll put a $sign in front of the letter. Now, when I copy this cell, I paste it, Control V right next to it. It's the same column. The row is not anchored, but I'm just going across the same row, so it will maintain that row. If I go down one row, it will paste whatever that row is, but the column itself is anchored. I'm going to come here and I will anchor the row. And so I start off with equals A1. I'll put a $sign in front of the row, so that's 1. So now if I copy that and I paste it, it will be the next column over. It will copy it from the next column over. But if I go down a row, it will be whatever is in that same row because the row itself is anchored. I could also anchor both column and row. And you can do that by hitting F4, or you can just type in a $sign in front of the column and the row. When I do that, if I can copy that and I can paste it wherever, it will always be that column and row. So I'll do cell B2. That's more interesting than A1. That's a value of 5. So no matter where I copy that, because it's anchored, it will always be that. Okay, so that part is anchored. Let's look at what we're doing over here. We're going to compute the mean, median, and mode for some statistics. Let's do head circumference. Oh, I didn't even spell that right. Yeah, oh, whatever. Where it's not spelled right here, sir. You can, whatever. So the mean, the formula for mean is actually average. That's to compute the arithmetic mean. And I can select these cells and I can copy them. So that's cells B2 to B43. I can either put in a parenthesis or I can hit enter. And there we have the average of those. And oh, I went through that kind of fast. If you want to go between a selection of cells really fast, if you hold down the control and the arrow, it will go down until there's a space and it'll go right before the space. So there's a space right here. So it stops right there. From here, or it'll go as far as you have values in there or as far as you have empty values. So like right here, if I want to go all the way to the bottom of Excel, hit control and I'll push the down arrow. That brings me all the way to the bottom. Hold down the shift, that can maintain the selection. And that's what I did to compute this average. So those numbers go way out. And so I am going to, I'll go this way, change that. You can either click these little buttons up here, or if you right click, you do format cell, and you can change how many decimal places that is. So that's the mean. Let's do the median. The formula for that is median. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. Instead of selecting the specific cells, I'll select the entire column by clicking on the B. And you notice it says B:B. That means the entire column, regardless of what rows are in there. I could have done that here. I can edit this. So take off those numbers. And now it will be average for everything in there. And the mode, its formula is mode equals mode, and then in parentheses, it takes as a parameter whatever value you want to do the mode on. But now that I have these in here, the next thing I want to compute these statistics, get these parameters for the length, birth weight, gestation, mother age, and father age. You notice that length, birth weight, gestation are all right next to each other. And because of that relative formulas, I can just copy these and I can paste them. I'll copy over. If I want to check that, I'll click on the cell up there. Now I see it's highlighted as in blue. So if I come over here, all of blue is highlight, and I've got that. And the mother age is not one column over, it's actually 2 columns over from gestation. So I can copy this, paste it 2 over, and then I'll just drag it. So I've got all those cells highlight, I'll just drag the whole thing over. And the father age, how does the father age look in relationship to the mother's age? So there's 4 cells over. I'll just, well, actually, here's a way you can edit it. I'll copy those. So that does the mean, median, and mode of whatever, of M, NOCIG, whatever that means. But I want column K. So I'll just come in here and replace these H's with K's. Now we have the mean, median, and mode for these specific types of variables that we're looking at. The next part are to create histograms. So let's see that. If you select the data, you come up to insert, recommended chart. That would be the easiest way to do it. Grab the first one, cluster column. And there we have, in the x-axis, we have 12, 13, 14, 15. That's this thing right here. And this is the y. Those are the values we have. We have 6 that are 12 inches, 21 that are 13 inches, 13 that are 14 inches, 2 that are 15 inches. And there are ways you can adjust these. Like, for example, if I click on this data set, I can do format data series, and I can get rid of this gap if I wanted to do that. Oh, that was not gap. This is the gap right here. And so now we've got this type of a histogram with bins of 1 inch. Okay, so that's head circumference. Another way to do it is if you select the data, go to insert, and this time I'll select the very first one. And you'll notice it doesn't have the y axis on here. I select the data, and when Excel does a visualization, it treats it like a formula. So equals series, and then there's some parameters in here. The very first parameter is the title. And I could type something in there, or I can reference a cell. If you reference a cell, if you update the cell, the title will update as well. I'll show you that in a second. So before the first comma, I included the length. In between the first and the second column, comma, those are the X variables. And so now that I put that in there, I select it and I hit enter, so it would take. So now over here where it says 17, 18, 19 on to 22, that's what it says on the chart as well, 17 to 22. And I told you I would show you what happens if I adjust this. Let's say I want to make the L capitalized. Oh, that's referencing C1. So I go all the way, well, I'll just do this. I'll just type something in here. So if I want to change that up, capitalize the L, now it updates in the graph as well. And let's say we want to change these to get rid of the gap width, or maybe give it a 10% gap, or however it is you want to do it. And if you want to change, you can change the font on these by selecting everything, selecting the graph. Then you come up here. Garamon's a nice graph. Adjust it as you want. If you want to add some labels, if you go to chart design, add chart element, let's add some axis titles. Added primary horizontal and primary vertical. And now I can go right here, count. Length of newborn, or whatever it is you want to call it. Length of newborn in inches. And you can also change the color on these, however you see fit, whatever would best represent whatever it is you're trying to do. Move these around if you want to get rid of these lines. Anyways, those are a few tricks. You can do the same thing for these other tables, but those are a few Excel tricks you can use in developing histograms and in computing some basic statistics.